तो ਹੁਣ 4.5 ਸਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਆ and he just tore us apart.
When somebody actually starts suffering and then either ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਲੇ ਦੁਆਲੇ ਆ ਚੁੱਪ ਹੀ ਕਰ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਮੈਸੇਜ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ and it's still kind of, we're not breaking that taboo. I think we still got a lot more work to do.
Just a taboo thing in our community, some of them still do not understand.
ਜਿਹੜੇ
ਸਿਆਣੇ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਠੀਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਐਦਾ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਪਾਗਲ ਹੈ ਪਰ ਉਹ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਗਲਤ ਹੈ
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪਾਗਲ ਬਾਜਾ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ
ਨਹੀਂ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਗਲਤ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅਖੀਰ ਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ we should be supporting them, we should be helping them.
Did she let on that, yeah, cool, I've had a real hard day at work today?
Yeah. That's the reason we lost her. Yeah. It was because she had a nervous breakdown, because she was so stressed at work and worked this high pressure job and was helping everybody else but herself.
So when people call us, we believe that there's a part of them that still wants to live because they're reaching out and getting the support that they need.
The thing about suicide is it's really complicated, it's really complex, and the cause isn't the same in any two people.
Quite often it's just talking to us. We hope just talking to us, it could halve your problem and you could see things differently to the way you were seeing them when you was trying to figure it out by yourself.
Suicide perhaps isn't a way out of debt. It doesn't guarantee anything, right?
No, and often people take out insurance policies, thinking that once they've taken their lives, the insurance policy will pay out to their loved ones.
Please, if you think that, if you're thinking suicide might be a way out of debt, or that's not the case, we've already heard that your debt gets put into your estate.
People are saying, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋ, start talking about it. But still there's that barrier and there's that level of feeling ashamed.
Yeah, a feeling of failure. I think they feel that if you admit that ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਮਜ਼ੋਰੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ, if you admit it, you're a failure.
They don't see the signs, and that's hard because where does the blame lie? Is it the person that's died? Is it the relatives that missed out on those signs that you look back on and think, actually I could have noticed that?
Yeah.
Or is it professionals if they were involved?
And for so many people, when all these things are going on in their life, they think that suicide may be an option for them.
It's a shame that people just carry that much weight around with them, and it's
they don't need to.
They don't need to. There's no need.
They don't need
just open up, just talk.
Don't feel you're alone.
Right.
We all are here to help and support you, and a lot of people are going through it. It's important to talk.
To be honest, I won't wish this on my worst enemy. Sometimes I get angry with God.
ਹਾਂਜੀ, and ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ, as we were saying, now we're a family who's been affected by mental health illness and subsequently suicide. We're going to chat to them, and first we would like to thank them for letting us into their home and talking about their grief and what they've been through. But ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ ਜੀ ਕਿ ਕੀ ਹੋਇਆ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੀ ਕੁਛ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੀਵੈਂਟ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ, ਅਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਦਾ ਸਾਥ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਗਾਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਘੱਟ ਹੋਣ ਜਾਂ ਨਾ ਹੋਣ। ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਤਾਂ ਇਹੀ ਹੈ। ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀਰਾ ਭਾਜੀ ਆ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ ਸਾਰਾ UK ਜਾਣਦਾ ਹੀ ਆ, ਅਤੇ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਅਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਜੀ ਇਹ ਵਾਕਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਐਂਡ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦਾ ਸ਼ਿਕਾਰ ਹੋਇਆ। ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੁਛ ਪਵਨ ਬਾਰੇ ਦੱਸੋ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੇਟੇ ਸੀ।
ਭਾਜੀ ਪਵਨ was a young lad, and he would have been 30 in 7 days' time.
Right, so he was very young then.
Very young.
Yeah.
And he was very well liked, personality, very smart, and very well liked amongst his friends. Very kind, generous, and he done his law degree.
Yeah.
Passed with flying colours. and you know, he was just outgoing.
And
you know,
polite, very
and
polite lad, yeah.
Very polite he was. He used to work with me in the pub.
I remember ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਛੋਟੇ a few years back ਆਪਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਮੈਦਿਕ ਦੇ ਦਫ਼ਤਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ to pop in ਤੇ Pavan was just a little boy but he'd always be polite and ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਬੁਲਾਉਣੀ and ਮਿਲਣਸਾਰ ਸੀ
ਹਾਂਜੀ and you don't know, I mean you know, he'd done a degree, then he was looking for a job and I said, okay, just help us in the pub, you know, while you know, no problem, and you know, and we just you know, I was planning the future I just take it easy, you know, khulli shutti jo marji kar, enjoy yourself,
pressure nahi paunde
koi pressure nahi si, nothing, and you know, he was just nice, kind lad. Everybody knew him, you know, he was one of the, you know, the joker cracking jokes, and you know, and we don't know what happened.
So ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿਉਂ ਅਕਸਰ ਲੋਕ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਉਹੀ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਚੁੱਪ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਇਕੱਲੇ ਇਕੱਲੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਗੁੰਮਸੁੰਮ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਪਰ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਆਪੋਜ਼ਿਟ ਸੀ ਪਵਨ ਤਾਂ ਇਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਸੀਗਾ
ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ you know, we used to go to football matches, and
tournaments ਵਗੈਰਾ
ਸਾਰੇ and he wasn't, you know, he was very, he wanted to be perfect in every way, and, you know,
so he's quite ambitious as well.
Very ambitious. He had plans for the future, and you know, and ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਪ੍ਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਨੇ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ
ਭਾਈ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਤੇ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਇਫੈਕਟ ਹੋਇਆ ਕੀ ਵਾਪਰਿਆ I mean
ਭਾਜੀ ਦੇਖੋ ਜੀ you know, ਹੁਣ 4.5 ਸਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਆ and he just tore us apart. You know, the whole family, myself, my daughter, my son, Kyle. And to be honest, you know, it's completely different scenario now. And it obviously will never be the same again, and to be honest, I won't wish this on my worst enemy. You know, sometimes I get angry with God. You know,
I think we all would in that sort of circumstance.
And in fact, myself, obviously, family is all his friends. And when I can't see his friends,
because it reminds you of them.
There isn't a day go past, a second that don't think about him, you know. Then obviously, what can you do? Just have to carry on, pull yourself together, and you know, got to look after the family.
But you told support ki mili from the community. What do you think a community, did they come together to support you? Do you think they could have done more? And do you think, you know, more needs to be done in this area?
A lot can be done. A lot, you know, people don't talk about it.
Right.
ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਹੋਇਆ ਬੜਾ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਆ
ਬੜਾ ਸੋਹਣਾ
and you know, and we should be talking more about it and doing something about it instead of spending large amounts of money on other stuff, projects, and you know, and should have centers opened, you know.
And we don't have ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਹਰ community center ਜਾਂ community hub ਜਾਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਚ we should have counselors ਜਿੱਥੇ ਲੋਕ secretly ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਪਣਾ anonymously ਜਾ ਕੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਜਾਂ even outside of the ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਕੋਈ ਇੱਦਾਂ community hub ਹੋਵੇ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਿਲ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋ ਜਾਂ even ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਚਰਚ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾ ਕੇ confession ਲੋਕ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿਉਂ ਕਈ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ you can tell strangers.
Some people, they don't want to talk to their family.
Yeah, of course.
But sometimes, you know, it might be cause of the family. And like obviously now, we know, me and my family, what we are going through. We can share that to people. Okay, you know, my doors is open to anybody who wants to come. Talk to me wherever.
Which is, you know, great. Is what I've noticed what you've been offering is, look, you've said, because I've been through it. Anyone coming to talk to me?
See, and because we know how they're feeling, the pain they're going through.
ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਮਝ ਲਿਆ
So yeah.
there should be bereavement centers, bereavement counselors. There
Yes,
should be people, you know, who, because ਆਪਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਆਸਾਨੀ ਨਾਲ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਚਲ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ get on with it, life goes on, ਚੱਲਦੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ, but it doesn't. How can you just have someone go through this and we can say get on with it? That's probably the most insensitive thing ever to say, and yet this is a community direction. ਚਲੋ ਜੋ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ. How many times have we heard that?
That's it. Oh, yeah.
ਚਲੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗਾਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਸੋਚੋ, but how can you do that? ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਜੋ ਆਪਾਂ insensitive ਗੱਲਾਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ, ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੱਸੋ ਜੀ, ਆਪਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਹੈਗਾ ਦਿਲ 'ਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੱਸੋ. ਐਂਡ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਇਹ ਆ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਸੀਕ੍ਰੇਟਿਵ ਬਹੁਤ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਆ, ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਗੱਲ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ.
ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸੰਦੇ ਵੇ ਦੇ ਫੀਲ ਮੋਰ they think we are mainly
ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਬੰਦੇ ਆ, ਬੰਦਾ ਬਣੋ
ਹੈ, ਬਟ ਇਨਸਾਈਡ you should ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੀ carry it out, talk about it, ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ. ਐਂਡ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ when you share it, and share your pain, and look, ਦੋ ਤਿੰਨ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰੋ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ, you're sharing it.
And ਤੁਸੀਂ
it calms it down, and yes, I mean it's hard, but we should be more talking about it.
And around that time, 4 or 5 years ago,
4 or 5, yeah,
there was a series almost, ਹਰ 2 3 ਮਹੀਨੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਖਬਰ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਸੀ.
ਬਹੁਤ and never ever thought this would happen to to us, but this is the worst day of life, and there should be more done. There should be.
ਭਾਜੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ 'ਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਲੋਕ ਡਿਪਰੈਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਿਕਾਰ ਆ, ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਬਹੁਤ ਲੋਕ ਕੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਆਇਆ. ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਇੱਕ ਵਿਊਅਰਸ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਊਗੇ ਜੋ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਮੁਸੀਬਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੋਚ ਰਹੇ ਕਿ ਯਾਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੱਢ ਸਕਦੇ ਜਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਔਖੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਏ ਹਾਂ, what do you want to tell them?
See, the thing is, yes, people go through hard time, and there's a lot of things, but what I always say is that there's always light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
I would say just keep fighting, keep doing, and go to the people who listen to you. And this is not the end of the world. And okay, it's very easy for me to say be strong, but never ever even think about even that. Just imagine, now people are saying how we are feeling and what you gonna leave behind.
Yes.
How these people, you probably, yes, I can't say it's being selfish, but they're suffering.
ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਪੇਨ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਖਤਮ ਕਰ ਦੋਗੇ, ਫਿਰ ਬਾਕੀਆਂ ਲਈ ਸਾਰੀ ਉਮਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ
ਸਾਰੀ ਉਮਰ, not one, your close family, your friends, and think,
your mom and dad, your wife, kids,
and please come out and talk to people, get it out. Okay, on the medical side, there is a lot of help. There is very professionals.
And if you're not feeling well, let people know you're not feeling well. Don't pretend you're okay. And if you think that, I would say, look, everyone goes through struggles at times, and there's been points at times where everyone thinks, you know what, aj kal da din nahi aave, kal da din nahi aave. But if you look at people who are successful now, or people who are even happy now, then they've been unhappy as well. And if they'd have given up at that time, they wouldn't have it. Life is like that. It's up and down.
Up and down.
Up and down to honi.
Everybody been through struggles. Yes, I mean, a few years ago, myself was diagnosed with a bit of depression. Put on a medication. And within about a month or so, I said, now what am I doing? I completely, I hit the gym. Hit the gym. And I said, no, I'm not going to go on that road. I want to do that. And to be honest, within a couple of months, I came off the medication.
You fought it.
I fought it. It's how you treat it, how you handle it. But to be honest, some people, it's gone so severe they can't
get out of it.
They
It's like a
can't
loop.
agree.
Yeah. ਤੇ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ often they come as a shock.
Yeah.
And nobody, there's no telltale signs. ਕੋਈ ਸਾਈਨ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੋਈ
ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਈਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁਣ with Pavan nobody thought ਕਦੀ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਉਹ he was working at the pub the Red Cow
ਜੀ
and he just asked for a couple of days off.
Yeah.
Said okay, no problem. And never even thought.
Yeah. And if there had been signs, then people would have prevented it. People would have stepped in. But often in these sort of things, there isn't a sign. So please ask your fellow person. Be kind to them. Ask how they're doing. Listen to the reply. Appa pata ki puchde hain? All right, mate. How are you? Kidda? Theek thaak? We don't wait to listen to the answer. Appa dooji ਗੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਹਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਆਉਂਗਾ ਵੀਰੇ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਠੀਕ ਠਾਕ ਅੱਛਾ ਤੂੰ ਫਲਾਣੇ ਦਾ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਆ ਟੀਵੀ ਦੇਖਿਆ I won't wait to hear. And if I do hear you, that won't compute. ਜੇ ਤੂੰ ਕਹੂੰਗਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਭਾਈ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਦੁਖੀ ਹਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਪਤਾ ਕੀ ਯਾਰ ਛੱਡ ਮੈਂ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਸੋਚੂਗਾ ਮੈਂ ਕੀ ਲੈਣਾ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ ਇਹਦਾ ਦੁੱਖ ਸੁੱਖ ਕੋਈ ਪਰਸਨਲ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਣੀ ਆ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਇੰਸਟੈਡ ਆਫ ਸ਼ੁਡ ਬੀ ਸੇਇੰਗ ਭਾਈ ਦੱਸੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਦੁੱਖ ਆਪਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਦਦ ਕੀ ਕਰੀਏ ਐਂਡ ਵੀ ਸ਼ੁਡ ਬੀ ਦੈਟਸ ਦੀ ਅਪਰੋਚ ਵੀ ਨੀਡ ਟੂ ਟੇਕ ਐਂਡ ਸਾਡੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਸੈਂਟਰਸ ਐਂਡ ਜੋ ਰਿਲੀਜੀਅਸ ਇੰਸਟੀਟਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਪੈਸੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਫੈਸਿਲਿਟੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਦਿਓ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਰਸ ਰੱਖੋ ਐਮਪਲੋਏ ਕਰੋ ਫੁੱਲ ਟਾਈਮ ਪਾਰਟਨਰ
ਪੈਸੇ ਵੀ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਆ
ਜੀ ਪੈਸੇ ਸੰਗਤ ਦੇ ਹੀ ਆ ਐਗਜ਼ੈਕਟਲੀ ਸੋ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਸਾਡੀ ਤਾਂ ਇਹੀ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਆ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਦੈਟ ਯੂ've come here and shared your experience with us.
I'd just like to wish everybody, please come out, talk about it. Don't hide it, don't hide away. There are people out there helping you, wants to help you. Please don't ever just look what you leave behind. They're going to be suffering for the rest of their lives. Your friends, your family, and please, thank you.
ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਭਾਜੀ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਏ ਆ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਕਿ ਆਪ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਉਣ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਆਪ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਏ ਆ ਐਂਡ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਸਾਂਝੀਆਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਘੜੀ 'ਚ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਵੈਰੀ ਮਚ
ਓਕੇ ਵੈਲਕਮ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ
So I'm here in the middle of a park on a lovely sunny day with Carly. And as we've spoken earlier on the show, we're here to talk about suicide prevention and talk to people who've suffered losses and who've been through these sort of situations. And Carly is unique because you're a mental health nurse yourself, and your mother was also a mental health nurse. So tell us a bit about your mother.
Where to begin? She was the life and soul of the party.
Right.
Very kind individual, huge family person. Did everything she could for her kids. She lived for her kids. So many friends. Just a bubbly character, which is often the kind of characters you hear that this kind of stuff happens to. Also very sensitive. But she moved into the field of mental health, so she was actually in charge of helping when sectioning people, so making those decisions really of when that needed to happen.
So quite at the high end really.
Yeah, and I think it was because she knew about mental health herself and understood, that was an important part of the process, and she was passionate about getting the right help for people.
When obviously you was with your mother, did you ever feel that she was in a high pressure job, and did she let on that I've had a real hard day at work today?
Yeah, that's the reason we lost her. It was because she had a nervous breakdown, because she was so stressed at work and worked this high pressure job and was helping everybody else but herself.
Why do people feel that they can't reach out? I mean, people will be watching and think, well, surely if people are in trouble, then why aren't they reaching out? Why do you think that is?
I think people that suffer with depression, in my experience, don't find it easy to reach out.
Right.
And anxiety, high anxiety as well. It's a barrier to getting the help. And knowing where to go. People don't know where the resources are, and sometimes people have had bad experiences with mental health services. We all know mental health services aren't up to scratch, and it's something that we're collectively, we need to work on together really.
What needs to be done? So what does the government need to do, and what is it doing right, and what is it doing wrong or not doing?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and actually something that happened to me in my experience, and which was part of my bereavement, was I was so passionate about making change and making people stand up for what had happened that I spent about 2 years talking to the NHS and bringing an investigation of what had happened. And I'd realised, and I hope a lot of other people learn this really through my own experience, for lots of people that are bereaved by suicide, they don't see the signs, and that's hard because where does the blame lie? Is it the person that's died? Is it the relatives that missed out on those signs that you look back on and think, actually, I could have noticed that?
Yeah.
Or is it professionals if they were involved? But I think lots of people also don't just experience anger, they experience a whole host of emotions, including blaming that loved one that's died. And everything's normal, and that's okay. It's just processing emotion as it comes and goes. That's okay.
If someone's out there now and listening and they're in trouble and they think, right, they're having suicidal thoughts, or they're thinking, you know, I can't go on like this, what should be done? What should they do? And what should others do who are perhaps noticing others go through this?
I think remembering that you will not be the only person feeling that way. There's a whole community out there, and part of the work I do now, I actually work for a charity, not the NHS, but the charity is supporting the NHS.
Right.
Lots of charities are doing the same thing, and we're working on a transformation programme, which is something that is trying to interject social change as well as just looking at the medical model, which is what the NHS does.
What would your message be to people who are, especially like young people who are going through it? We often hear the message of mental health is now being spread amongst the young people, especially young people perhaps going at school, going through a tough time, through uni going through a tough time, or just generally through life going through a tough time. I mean, elderly people, I don't know whether they're better equipped to deal with it or not, but they've had a lot more life experience. But youngsters seem to be affected by it nowadays as well.
Yeah, I feel the younger generation are much more open-minded, if I can say that.
Of course.
I think they have new experiences and generational changes have come about, and sometimes the older generation, if I can say this, aren't as open-minded because they haven't been brought up to be.
That's right.
Nowadays, it's more acceptable to talk. It's okay to not be okay, the big slogan that's often talked about. It's okay to reach out for help. It's okay to feel down and to remember it's just a period of time and that you will move through it. But
and one thing that's really gets people talking is about social media and the use of social media. Do you reckon that's made things better or made things worse?
both.
Both.
I think if you are looking at the wrong things and you're influenced by, all sorts really, things that might not be so positive, then that can be really negative. But there's a lot of help in the community, and a lot of that is through social media. There's a lot of pages you can follow. There's a lot of making yourself feel more positive affirmations, mental health charities you could be following, ambassadors and that kind of thing within the industry.
And what is your message for people who see this as a sort of taboo subject and they think, well, hold on, no, it's stigma, we don't want to talk about this, these things haven't happened, they're not talking about it, won't help us. What would you say to that?
It's a mindset that is of the past. We're not in that day and age anymore. It's okay to be open. The rest of the world is talking about it. So if you're not, then you're doing yourself as a disadvantage. You deserve to access the support that's available nowadays. It's there to be found should you want it.
Carly, you're a mental health nurse. If I was having problems, I would turn to a person like you and say, you know what, Carly, I'm feeling down. This is what's happening to me. I need some tips on how to improve my mental health.
Yeah.
So go for it. What tips would you give for someone?
Tips. Regular sleep, very regular sleep.
That's
the
important?
Basics, very important.
Right.
So if you're really, really struggling with your mental health, I'd recommend going back to basics. If you're not functioning very well, back to basics. Regular sleep, eating well, drinking well, avoiding alcohol, smoking. A small amount of social contact. Feeling comfortable. Exercise is very good for you. Regular walks. mindfulness, yoga, meditation. There's an awful lot of support out there, and things like apps, the Headspace app, the Calm app, really good for guiding you through times of anxiety and depression, and giving you tips on a daily basis.
Wow. And what about organisations out there? I mean, when we reach out to organisations out there, what are the most common ones or the ones that you would recommend for us to reach out to?
Yeah, there are so many. Mental health in general, the Mind, www.mind.org.uk is fantastic. That's a place that will signpost you to lots of other places. There's charities such as Rethink. There are apps such as Staying Alive. For bereavement, there are places like survivors of, they're called SOBS.
Okay, yeah.
SOBS. They were fantastic for me. Weekly or monthly meetup groups are really, really supportive, but there's a whole host of resources out there.
So there is quite a lot of wide support network if we want to access it.
Absolutely, not just in the mental health field, the NHS, but in the community as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Carly, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for being open and honest. That's exactly what we needed. And thank you very much for your messages and wishing you the best for the future.
Thank you.
ਅਕਸਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਜੀਵਨ ਜਾਂ ਮੌਤ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਐਂਡ ਵੀ ਟਾਕ ਅਬਾਊਟ ਲਾਈਫ ਔਰ ਡੈਥ ਦੈਨ ਵੀ ਆਲਵੇਜ਼ ਸੇ ਔਰ ਆਪ ਖੁਦ ਵੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਜੀ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਰੱਬ ਦੇ ਹੱਥ 'ਚ ਆ ਕਰਮਾਂ ਦਾ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਕਿਤਾਬ ਆ ਪਰ ਡੂ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਦੇ ਵੀ ਹਾਂ ਜਾਂ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਰੱਬ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਆ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਜੀ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਹੁਣ ਚਾਨਣਾ ਪਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਮੇਰੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਤਾਂ ਕੱਖ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਇੱਕ ਗੈਸਟ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਹੀ ਇਹੀ ਹੈ ਜੀ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਚਾਨਣਾ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਬੇਸਿਕਸ ਆਫ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਆ ਪ੍ਰਚਾਰਕ ਆ ਦੇ ਡਿਸਕੋਰਸਿਸ ਇਨ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅਕਸਰ ਦੇਖੇ ਹੋਣੇ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਟ 'ਤੇ ਮਿਲੀਅਨਸ ਆਫ ਹਿਟਸ ਅਤੇ ਉਹ ਹੈਗੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਬਲਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਸਾਡੇ ਸ਼ੋਅ 'ਚ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਫॉर ਕਮਿੰਗ ਔਨ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੌਤ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਰਮਾਂ ਦਾ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਕਿਤਾਬ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਜੋ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਆ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਜੀ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੀ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਹੈ ਵਾਟ ਇਜ਼ ਏ ਹੁਕਮ ਔਨ ਮੌਤ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲੀ
First line that comes to mind about Janam Maran, which is birth and death. Guru Sahib ji kehndे ne aavan jaan ek khel banaya. There's this play that has been created of coming and going, which is life and death. And we all are familiar, most of us will be familiar with Japji Sahib Bani. And in there, Maharaj ji say that gaave ko ji la, that God, there's this play of taking life from a body, ji la, fir De means a body, then it's put into another body. So Janam Maran, some of us think कि बस इत्थे ही मुक जांदी कहानी बस
कि एक वारी जी एक वारी मारे गल खत्म
नहीं बस पर खेड इदां दी नहीं है असल विच महाराज जी कहंदे ने कि इत्थों आपां हुण आए हां कि पूर्व जन्म के मिले संजोगी. That sanjog means when we all come together, you meet each other. We meet each other karke purv karma da hisab hai because of our past lives. We may have had some form of connection that might be unresolved or something that we were going to work on together. And because of that connection, it's brought us back together again. Purv janam ke mile sanjogi, and people then come and meet again. So eh khed Maharaj ji kehndे janama diya. It's been going on for lifetimes that we've probably met before, Harjaf.
Probably have. Gahanu milna ho. So it's just ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੌਤ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦਾ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਤਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ ਭੈੜਾ ਮਨਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਅਤੇ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਹੋਣ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਡਿਪਰੈਸ਼ਨ ਹੋਵੇ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੋਵੇ ਆਪਾਂ we're told to brush these things under the carpet. We rarely talk about these things with men especially. ਕਿ ਤੂੰ ਬੰਦਾ ਬਣ ਤੂੰ ਇਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਾਹਨੂੰ ਕਰਦਾ ਤੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਬਾਕੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਚੱਕਣੀ ਆ ਤੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਮਜ਼ੋਰ ਪੈ ਜਾਊਗਾ. And when it comes to talking about people who have taken their own lives, atma hatya, which we call, and ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ we hear stuff ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਜੀ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਬੜਾ ਪਾਪ ਆ ਮਾੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਜੀ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਸੀ. ਪਰ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਸਾਡਾ ਧਰਮ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੀ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਜੋ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਕੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ.
ਸੋ ਮੇਰਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ 2-3 ਸਵਾਲ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੀ ਹੋ ਗਏ.
ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੀ ਘਸੋੜ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਬੋਲਣਾ ਹਟੂੰਗਾ ਹੁਣ ਬਲਜੀਤ ਤੋਂ ਸੁਣਾਂਗੇ.
Fine. So there's quite a few questions in that what you've just said. First of all, ਮੌਤ ਬਾਰੇ, like we brush it under the carpet. We just tend not to even talk about death. So ਦੂਸਰਾ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਵਾਲ ਆ about mental health itself. ਹੈ ਨਾ ਕਿ do we brush that under the carpet as well, especially when it comes to men? I thought that we're talking about it a lot more now. It's we're breaking that kind of taboo and it's becoming easier to talk about these subjects and topics, but I still feel there's something we're not quite getting right and we're still failing at some level, because when somebody actually starts suffering and then either ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਲੇ ਦੁਆਲੇ ਆ ਚੁੱਪ ਹੀ ਕਰ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਮੈਸੇਜ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ, and it's still kind of, we're not breaking that taboo. I think we still got a lot more work to do, and we still need to make it more comfortable to start talking about it. People are saying ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋ, start talking about it, but still there's that barrier and there's that level of feeling ashamed.
A feeling of failure. I think they feel that if you admit कि तुसी अपनी कमजोरियां नूं, if you admit it, you're a failure. A lot of people think, like you've touched on, that perhaps it's contagious. ਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਜੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਕੇ ਯਾਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੈਗੇਟਿਵ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੋਚਣਾ positive ਸੋਚਣਾ, whereas take it in the whole.
Sometimes I think it's more about the saying we don't want to say the wrong thing.
Maybe.
And that's why I think there's more education needed. Like, so one of the first things they teach you in when you do first aid mental health, when we've got first aid for your physical body, but there's a first aid for mental health as well, which I'm trained in that first aid mental health. One of the first things they tell you, they teach you how to listen. ਕਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਆ. Guru Nanak Dev Ji gave us 4 ਪੌੜੀਆਂ of ਸੁਣਿਆ ਸਿੱਧ ਪੀਰ ਸੁਨਾਤ. So it says, so one of the first steps that taught in that is how do we listen to somebody? That way we can become more aware of what's going on inside somebody, reading between the lines and really listening to them, not just passively listening to someone. So I think it needs to go that step further now of saying, gal karo, it's okay, speak about your mental health, but we've got to start training people on, okay, well, if somebody does start speaking, how do you even listen to them? So that's very important. So I'm just going to go back because you asked me about Atam Hatya. So what does Gurbani directly say about suicide, Atam Hatya? Gurbani doesn't directly speak about somebody taking their physical life. What Gurbani does use that word Atam Hatya though, but in which context? Gurbani says Naam na jap hai ta Atam Kati. Guru says actually those that aren't meditating and connecting to that one and seeing that light of God in everyone, the Guru is saying that in every moment they are taking their life.
It's a waste of life, basically.
Yes. So in that context, the Guru talks about suicide. So there's no other direct, in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, there's no direct conversation about Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So then that demystifies and helps us to understand this whole saying about ke Atam Hatya, suicide, e paap hai. When people say, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛ ਕੇ ਦੇਖੋ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਆ ਲਿਖਿਆ, ਕੌਣ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਆ. ਆਪਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਰੋ, ਆਪਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਚੰਗੀ ਗੱਲ ਆ. We're not saying do it, we're not saying it's a positive step to take, but does the Guru term it like that? No.
It's not criminalized.
No, Guru ne kadi idna kiya nahi sanu. The Guru didn't criminalize it in that way. But like everything else, like speaking to you earlier, there's a consequence for everything. In that same way, there will be some form of what comes from suicide. And again, but that isn't defined in that way. So nobody can actually say, oh, it's going to be exactly like that when they, leave their body by suicide and leave in that way. But in no form of way is that saying, "Theek hai, it's okay." It's not encouraging anyone, no. But it's very important for us to understand, because it can make people feel so bad and low. The families that are left behind, when people saying like, right? They've committed such a huge sin. They are already burdened with their loss and their grief. Imagine them putting that on top of somebody, on their head already with what they're living with. So we've got to be very careful within the language that we are using.
How can we recognize the signs, and how can we as a community do a lot more? I mean, when we're talking about our societies, our gurukars, how can we help people who are in this situation, people who are contemplating taking their own life, people who are in severe depressed states? We've seen a few recent cases where unfortunately people have taken their own lives, young munde and aurtan bhi, and because they feel they can't go on, they've left messages, heartfelt messages on their social media before taking their own life, and it's a tough read, and it's a cry for help, if anything, and you just feel as if perhaps no one listened, or perhaps no one cared or understood. So ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੀਵੈਂਟ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਛਾਣ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਐਂਡ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰੋਕ ਅਲਟੀਮੇਟਲੀ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਐਂਡ ਐਸ ਵਾਟ ਡੂ ਵੀ ਨੀਡ ਟੂ ਡੂ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਕਲੈਕਟਿਵਲੀ?
As you know, that there's no one word answer to say, let's do this. I would say, as a starting point, what we can all do within our homes is create a space to know, because everyone today is so bombarded and they've got their heads are stuck in their phones, in their social medias. I put my hand up as well. I'm no different. I'm the same. I'm not saying, but is finding just ek sama bana lena, right? Saying that we're going to make this a family thing, no matter what, right? If during this point, at this time, whether it's we're going to have dinner together, we're having dinner together. There's no phones on the table, right? Let's eat together, and then let's just have a chat afterwards, non-judgmental, and really just switch off and take away your preconceived ideas and thinking, nahi, ye to kuch nahi hunda. Like, I remember somebody saying to me, no, don't say you've got anxiety, you're fine. And I'm thinking, I'm not. Don't say that to someone. Just say to them, all right, just talk.
How can we get our Dharam, Guru Sahib, to help people in distress? ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹੀਦਾ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਕੋਲ ਜਾ, ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਸਾਈਕਾਇਟਰਿਸਟ ਕੋਲ ਜਾ, ਕਾਉਂਸਲਰ ਕੋਲ ਜਾ, ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਪਰ ਅਕਸਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਘੱਟ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਜਾ, ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਸੁਣੋ. How can that help people?
So the structure that Guru Sahib actually gave us was perfect for our mental well-being, and it was a structure to help us with our mind. And just to put it out there, we're not discouraging anyone. If anybody is in need and they need to go to their GP, needs to find a psychologist, whether it be through their GP or even private, please, take that step and don't hold back. The Guru has set that structure for us as well. Is it in place everywhere, in every Gurdwara? No. Yeah. Is there an odd Gurdwara, or not even a certain Gurdwara, or a few groups that are helping to put that structure together? I would say yes. Not many. Yes. And that structure is built on kirtan, singing. Like when we sing, that devotional singing, it can help us to evoke emotions. Yeah, really. So that's one. And then the actual concept of Sangat itself. People misunderstand Sangat. Sangat is a group of people that come together. Their the core where everything comes from is the same. So from the same Guru, from Guru Nanak, Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and then they all collectively have got a similar yearning and seeking to go on this spiritual journey together and find out more about their mind. And so then this collective energy that comes together that helps to elevate each other. And in that collective energy, again, you might do some kirtan, but then one of the most important, I can't say the most, one of the most important parts, what Bhai Gurdas Ji said that used to happen in Kartarpur Sahib, that Guru Nanak Dev Ji established, is Gyan, Gosht, Charcha Sada, is a conversation. That's what's missed. Yeah, people do katha, but they don't give the Sangat an opportunity to say, Samajh pai. I might say so much to you today, it doesn't mean you've grasped everything, but the opportunity, Guru Nanak gave people the opportunity, once they've done, they would recite Bani, they would even explain, but it doesn't mean everyone still got it. It doesn't mean everyone's still satisfied. Then Gosht, Bhai Gurdas Ji said. So then they would say, everyone would have an opportunity
to
sit
ask
together.
questions and talk about it.
All that we're talking
Vichar
about, that
Vatanda,
vichar, that thing that was stuck in your mind, right? So we need to actually bring back what Guru Sahib did, these structures which are for our well-being, for our mental well-being, which are the structures of, and then physical seva. So you get in your exercise in as well. And then Guru Angad Dev Ji wrestling. So it was the whole package. Structure was there that they did collectively together. So the sports was there. Yeah? And then the physical serving was there. The conversation was there. The recitation, the singing, everything, the structure's there. We just need to bring it back and do it in a language that everyone can understand.
If anyone's out there now and they're going through a tough time and maybe even contemplating taking their own life, and they've got depressing thoughts, negative thoughts, and what would your advice be to them? So what would you say to them that they need to do or that they should go and do? And it's quite essential, I think, that we need to get this message out there. So what is your message to them?
The first thing that the Guru says that we do for any karaj, any task, is an ardas. And believe it or not, even for mental health, you start off with an ardas, which is a plea. Right? We talk about the law of attraction. Yeah, the ardas is a version. The ardas is that. So we start off with a plea. We put our hands together and say that I'm struggling. Yeah, and you're talking to that higher power that we refer to as a God, as God, and say, I'm really struggling here, and I need a step forward, and I need some guidance, and I want to get out of this. Yeah, you take that step first, and then from there, you kind of just have this inkling to take the next step, and that could be for you. And if that next step is, cry out for help. That could be from your GP. That could be on your Instagram. That could be phone somebody, anyone. Yeah, and don't hold back. Then, you know what? When you speak to God and you say I need help, I'm telling you that somebody's listening to your prayer, and there's somebody sitting there waiting to listen to your pain as well. There is कोई ना कोई उत्थे हैगा आ इस दुनिया ते ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਸੁਣਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਤਿਆਰ ਆ. Don't think they're not. Yes, somebody's there, so cry out for that help in whichever capacity or means that may be. And then, if it might be the GP, it might be anyone, it might be someone from Sangat. Yeah. So take these steps, and then for your general well-being, there's so many things that we can put into place. Like we said, the structures that the Guru has given, spend more time in nature, whatever that may be, but do let yourself know. I know I've been there, so it's very difficult in that time, but I really want Sangat to know that it's not permanent what you're feeling. Yeah, these thoughts, they come and go. They're just based off your life experiences. Your thoughts don't define who you actually are. That very thought you're having today, it can change by the time you wake up. And I know it might be that you've been going through it for months or even years, but it can change. If we call God limitless, be'ant, that means your possibilities in life are limitless. That means that very thing you think you can't get out of, there can be a shift and a change. And one day you could be that one that makes a huge difference and an impact to people's lives. So do remind yourself that and tell yourself that there is, and you call out for help, and there's so many organizations today that are doing great work, that are there to listen, and structures are now being put into place that can help.
Bye, Baljeet Singh ji. Thank you for coming to talk to us today. And thank you to see Annie clearly and referencing to also Guru Sahib sanu message ditta. People can reach out to you as well on your website, and I believe you've set up an organisation to deal with this very topic.
It's a non-profit organisation called Journey of Compassion, and it's all about mental well-being. And we've already put certain structures in place, which is, one, we create that Sangat space on Zoom every Sundays. It's been a huge help to people. It saved lives. And it happens every week. So that's one of many. The website will be ready very soon. So yeah, this is just one of many. There's so many more organizations that are doing work, that I'm sure you guys can provide the names and the links as well.
Yeah, we will. And if anyone wants to get involved, then by all means they can contact you.
Absolutely, yes. They can go onto my Instagram, which is Journey of Compassion. Just find us. Like I said, the website will be ready soon as well. Email us on contact@journeyofcompassion.com.
Like Baljeet said, if you reach out, then someone is willing to listen. And they're here to listen. People are there to listen to you. You've just got to cry out for help, and someone is there. Baljeet, thank you very much once again. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. ਆਪਾਂ ਅਕਸਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਬੋਝ ਬਣਿਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆਂ ਜੀ ਕਿ ਕਿਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ, ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਣਾ ਦਿਲ ਹਲਕਾ ਕਰੀਏ, ਕੋਈ ਸਾਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਸੁਣੇ। ਘਰਾਂ 'ਚ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਕਿਹਾ, ਜਾਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਮੰਮੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਜਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਡੈਡੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਿਆ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜੀ ਮੰਮੀ ਡੈਡੀ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਤਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਸੁਣਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ, ਮੇਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਤਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਸੁਣਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ, no one is listening to me. And sometimes we think, who can we tell? We're often brought up with the sort of thing that ਘਰ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣੀ ਨਹੀਂ, don't tell anyone anything. People don't need to know what goes on in our house. So when we need to speak to someone, or when we need to get something out of our system, who can we call? Who do we speak to? And often we don't have anyone. But there are organisations out there who are there to listen, and are there to provide assistance, there to help you, and keep everything confidential. And such one organisation is called the Samaritans. And I'm glad today, so I don't know, Bali Duleji Hagea, who's been with the Samaritans for 15 years and volunteers with them. And he's here to tell us all about what the Samaritans do and how they can help and how they can provide a listening ear. So Bali, Sat Sri Akal, welcome to the show.
Sat Sri Akal.
Bali, tell us Samaritans gear. What are the Samaritans?
Okay, so we actively listen to our callers, anyone with any problems, anyone that's struggling.
Yeah.
So our organisation, we're confidential. We don't need to know your details. Okay. We don't need to know who you are.
Okay.
You can share anything with us. So if it can be suicidal, but it doesn't have to be. Right. It could be marriage problems, could be mental health issues. Okay. It could be anything.
I could be having a bad day.
You could be having a bad day, and sometimes you have bad days and you keep a lot of pain inside. So if you phone Samaritans, you could offload that pain if you like.
Do you have people from a South Asian background calling you?
Yes, we do.
You do? And has that grown over the number of years?
I think we get quite a few younger ones. Oh, okay. So I don't think the older ones use our charity as much. Okay. But yes, there is a few. And we also have a language section where if you did call in and you could, English wasn't your first language, you could request a call back and we could call you back in any language, as long as obviously we've got a volunteer that talks that language.
Okay, so ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੋਲਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਬੋਲਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅਰੇਂਜ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ someone to call back in ਪੰਜਾਬੀ? Right, okay. And ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮਾਂ ਆ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਲੋਕ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਐਨੀਥਿੰਗ, ਪਰ ਆਮ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮਸ ਆ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ?
There's quite a few marital problems.
Okay, ਵਿਆਹ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ?
Yeah, in-law problems.
Yeah, I bet there's a lot of problems.
But then there's also suicidal thoughts. It's pretty much the same as any other culture, if you like. So it doesn't matter what your issue is. You just need someone to talk.
If someone who's having suicidal thoughts, suicidal behaviours, has phoned you, I mean, what do you do then? And what's the sort of the thing that you can do? Obviously, you listen, but what sort of stuff? Surely, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਸਿਹਤ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਫਿਕਰ ਆ, and you're worried about, you know, ਕਿ ਇਹ ਕੁਛ ਕਰਨ ਨਾ ਲਵੇ. So, what sort of stuff does you do?
We like to talk about why you're feeling this way. What's got you to this point? Okay. So it'll be something that you can't talk to your parents about, to your friends about, because you don't want them to worry. Right. So you can talk to us. Okay. You can tell us when you first had these feelings, why you're having these feelings. We can discuss, is there practical ways of doing things so that circumstances change so you don't have to feel this way. Quite often it's just talking to us. We hope just talking to us. It could halve your problem and you could see things differently to the way you were seeing them when you was trying to figure it out by yourself. So if you've got the problem in your head and you've got no one else, or you can't bounce the ideas off anyone, you can't talk to no one, you can't get someone else's input into the problem that you've got, a small problem might become a large problem simply because you haven't thought of the obvious. So if you talk to Samaritans, and maybe you'll realise, you know what, it's not that bad.
ਆਪਾਂ ਆਮ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, we just take it.
Yeah.
And ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਕੋ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰੀਦੀ. And then we get up next day and say, ਚਲੋ ਆਪਾਂ ਹਮ ਫੇਰ ਲੱਗੇ ਹਾਂ. Do you see that over time with people? ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਤੇ ਪਾ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਤਾਂ ਬਿਲਡ ਅਪ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ?
Yeah, you see it all the time. It's personally, I think talking is king. Right. So you've got all that pressure. You go the next day, you build some more pressure. Next day builds, and it just builds up and builds up. You become a little bit more angry. Yeah. You react the way perhaps you shouldn't react. Your thoughts are going to dark places. It could lead to suicidal thoughts. So if you talk it all out, you know, you might not get there. You might not get to the point of having suicidal thoughts.
And do people often, after they've spoken with you, do they feel relieved? Do they feel like, do they say to you, you know, it's good to talk, sara boj le gaya?
Well, we'd like to think so. Yeah. Well, you do. You can see a lot of calls. We'll have a lot of calls where people are coming in and they're tense, they're hyper, they're angry. Yeah. You can see there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot going on within them. And the call could be half an hour, whatever. But you do notice quite a few where you can see it's almost a different person. Right. Because they've just let it all out. Instead of keeping it all in, they've just sort of released it.
ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰਾਂ 'ਚ ਕੀ ਕੁਛ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ to prevent these situations happening where people have pressure build up? What sort of stuff should we be doing at home, or shouldn't we be doing anything at home?
Well, I think we should bring a talking culture into our homes. We shouldn't be afraid to talk about things that bug us. Talk, not argue, just talk, discuss. Even suicidal thoughts. I know suicidal thoughts are very, very hard to talk about. Yeah. But we can talk about the problems we're having. And even if they don't have to mention the fact that they're suicidal, at least they can discuss the issues, not just with family, with friends, with neighbours, with anyone that they feel that they can talk. And if they haven't got anyone, of course they can talk to Samaritans.
when we talk about suicidal thoughts, give us a few examples of how we could recognize that, because obviously you're trained in that. ਹੁਣ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ 15 ਸਾਲ ਇਹੀ experience ਕੀਤਾ on the phone or face to face. But as ਆਪਾਂ ਆਮ ਬੰਦੇ, how can we recognize ਕਿ ਯਾਰ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਕੰਮ ਥੋੜਾ ਖਰਾਬ ਨਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ?
It's very hard because suicidal, there's not one factor in there, there's loads of different factors. There's so many different things. It's a hard thing to notice, but I mean, if you notice someone's quieter than they usually are, perhaps just say, you know, how are you feeling? Just a simple, how are you feeling? Usually when someone says, how are you feeling, we're going to say, yeah, good, no problem.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because we're just used to saying that. But if you dig a little bit deeper, well, you know, you could say, how did you cope with so-and-so? And then I could sort of let you open up. Just let the other person open up a little bit. Just dig a little bit deeper. If you think that they're not happy, just ask them, just ask how they are. And just dig that little bit deeper.
How easy is it to get in contact with the Samaritans, and how easy is it to pick up the phone? Do I just pick up the phone and start talking? Is it literally just like that, or is there some sort of, are they going to collect my information?
No.
Do I need to be worried about anything?
No. We don't know. We don't know who's calling us. We don't ask their name. Yeah. We may ask you for a name, but you can give any name you want. Yeah. We don't know who you are, so it's completely anonymous. So there's no danger. It doesn't even appear on your telephone, Bill. So if you call us on 116-123, it won't appear on.
It won't come on your phone, Bill.
No. So no one in your house will know that you've actually made the phone call.
Wow. And what would you say to people who are probably sitting at home and they do feel the pressures, and ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ, ਉਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਨੂੰ ਚਿੱਤ ਕਰਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ, ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ 'ਚ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਇਕੱਲੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਐਂਡ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਕੋਈ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਨੂੰ, ਨਿਆਣੇ ਮੂਵ ਆਊਟ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਜਾਂ ਉਹ ਇਕੱਲੇ ਰਹਿ ਗਏ, ਐਂਡ ਦੇ ਆਫਨ ਫੀਲ, ਜਿਹਨ ਹੁਣ ਸਾਰੀ ਉਮਰ ਬੋਲਿਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਗਿੱਜਿਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਪਿੰਡਾਂ 'ਚ ਰਹਿ ਕੇ ਬੋਲਣਾ, ਸੋ ਹੇ ਦੇ ਫਾਈਂਡ ਲੋਕ ਕੋਈ ਹੈ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਨੂੰ. What sort of things would you say?
I would just say, pick up the phone, ring us, 116-123, just have a chat. Let's just see what's on your mind.
And it's not specific just to like elderlies or, you know, middle-aged people. If you're a youngster out there,
it's anyone.
I know you've got like, you can pick up a phone and talk about, I don't know, you know, we've got exam pressures, if you've been marriage pressures, anything.
Anything, yeah. I mean, we're there for anyone, but if you're under 16, maybe Childline might be another one.
Okay.
So, but over 18, obviously Samaritans. So it could be anything. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be suicidal. It could be anything that's on your mind. So just don't carry the pain around with you. Basically, you don't need to.
And as we've heard throughout the show, the answer to everything, pretty much so far, has been to talk it out.
Yeah.
The first point of thing is to pick up the phone, have a chat, go and see someone, have a chat, tell someone how you're feeling. Have a chat. So there are facilities available. If someone face-to-face isn't available, then people like Billy are on the end of a phone that you can talk to. They understand your problems, you know, and you can have a chat and get it out of your system. And sometimes that's enough. Absolutely. That's all we want. In fact, most of the time, I'm assuming.
I think
that's enough.
Yeah. Most of the time, and it's a shame that people just carry that much weight around with them, and it's.
They don't need to.
They don't need to. There's no need.
They don't need
just open up, just talk.
Any final message you want to give?
Yeah, I would say if there is people out there struggling, just pick up the phone, call us on 116-123. It's a free phone call, and it won't be showing up on your bill. Just give us a ring. Don't carry the weight around with you. Just let's have the chat. Let's talk.
Billy, thank you very much. Good to see you, Jaya, and for sharing that. And hopefully, what Billy said has got through. Pick up the phone, have a chat. Don't need to carry that weight around with you. You don't need to carry that burden around with you everywhere.